Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another episode of the Cast. Today we're going to be talking about Wayfinder, and I invited Sir Snarf to come over and tell us all about the game. I believe that your real name is Alex Campbell, right? If I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names.
Sir Snarf has taken over my identity. So
okay.
My previous life, I was known as Alex Campbell, but yes, now it's Sir Snarf on the internet.
So
hi, Ironbreakers.
Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do over there at Airship Syndicate.
Yeah, no, and first and foremost, thanks for reaching out and actually listening to what we said on the stream showcase for early access and reaching out via Discord. But I am the community manager at Airship Syndicate, so humble little game studio here in Austin, Texas. But we are working on a pretty cool little game. Some of you might have seen during the last couple of weeks, but we're about to come into early access for Wayfinder, and this is our most ambitious take on kind of like that open world multiplayer experience. So it's a third-person action character-based RPG, but you'll be able to play it with kind of seamless world. So everybody in the world will be in one giant mega server, and so I'm running all the community aspects of things. So thank you for being here.
How long have you been at Airship Syndicate? Just out of curiosity, have you been since kind of like the beginning stages of the project? No? Okay.
No, so this is actually first foray into the video game world, which was actually pretty surprising that Airship was willing to take a little bit of a chance on me getting into a video game, especially for community aspect being such an important part of a game like this. But I have some experience in games. I was actually working at a pinball manufacturer prior to this, of all things. And I own my own board game company. We did a Kickstarter board game, so I do that on the side as well.
Oh.
So I have a bunch of different efforts, but
would that be something that we have heard about in this board game of yours? Just out of curiosity.
Maybe some. I doubt it. We had 8 pallets of the suckers show up back in February, and we had to ship about 300 or so of them around the world. So our entire house is turned into a board game production facility. But no, it's a very small kind of indie game along the lines of like Magic the Gathering that we did.
Okay.
But the team at Airship, Ryan, and all of them had done a Kickstarter with Battle Chasers. And so they knew some of the trials and tribulations I had gone through there. So I think I got some bonus cred points on that front. And then just, I'm pretty direct to the point. I've been a gamer since like the Wii days. Some of my favorites were RTS genres from back to like StarCraft 1, Command and Conquer, Red Alert, going through Tiberian Sun, everything there. And then I was a beta tester in WoW, RuneScape if we're going way back when, and did the first Guild Wars. Second Guild Wars it got better. And
that's actually a lot of like
so.
Multiplayer experience. See, that's why your resume is so good. You have a lot of multiplayer experience there.
I played a lot of games, and I know kind of what the sentiment was. I feel like especially when it comes to like a free to play game, a lot of what people's reservations are going to be, and I think I could speak to that pretty well. So I think that's what really expected. Hopefully, made me stand out a little bit. But anyway, they took a chance. So it's been about 9 months, 8-9 months, I would say at this point. So it's getting on there. But they did bring me on as a community manager role before we could really even go public, which was interesting. So I mean, they're really invested in. They noticed how important having that kind of communication with the public was going to be, just because they've been very much a polished studio. Like they wanted to put out content that was, really ready before it was a live service model. It's kind of like an adjustment to what the normal model would be for them. So I mean, they've worked on most recently Ruin King, a League of Legends story, which was pretty well regarded, but very much a polished, finished game before it was put out into the world. Along with Darksiders and
one of the most impressive things about Airship Syndicate to me is always that art style. Like I love the art style of those games. I can't get enough of it. Like you guys were showing the housing system and all that, and we're gonna get into that in this episode. But like, it's just watching that. It's such a cozy art style where like I just want to chill in this world for a while, right? It's really cool. But
yeah.
let's
a lot of that. I mean, people who don't know, just to kind of put it out there. So Joe Mad is our CEO, and he's actually the one that kind of just signs up on. This is kind of his brainchild ultimately when you get down to it. But if you go back, I mean, I think he started becoming like a famous comic book artist when he was a teenager, and so Battle Chasers was his first foray into comic books, and then he was picked up by Marvel, and he made a lot of things there. So I mean, it's a hot topic. I don't want to say definitively one way or another, but there's a lot of people who make the argument that he was making that kind of stylized art style before WoW was doing it, or any other games that kind of picked up on what he was doing. So
yeah, because
him at the front was
there's a lot of them that kind of like do it nowadays. Yeah. So let's start with the basics. So you already give it like a brief description of Wayfinder, but let's really jump into it because I feel like people have seen some gameplay of some boss fights and stuff like that is on your channel, some class stuff. You guys talked about Founder's Pack, but at its core essence, what is Wayfinder?
So I already kind of gave the elevator pitch. Yeah. I'd say at its core, and I just want to jump right in front of this right now, it's not going to come out as an MMO. Like, we've never labeled it as an MMO. We have the aspirations of getting it to be this stage of an MMO, but don't go into the game expecting it to be the WoW killer or MMO. That's not the case, and we don't want that to. We don't want people to false expectations for that. It is a third-person RPG action combat, so you're going to have those Dark Souls elements to it. So that very snappy, in the moment combat that you're having to read movesets and you're going to have to react to them and dodge them and actually care about where the hitboxes is and that sort of thing. That is one aspect of the game. You do have the fantasy world where you are going to be going into more open world areas that you're going to have. It is instance based, so you're going to go into the more open world areas that you can have 30, 40 people. We don't have the final number yet. In like a shared space, and there's going to be world events that you don't have to be in a party together, but you can work together to take down a world boss or a giant event or something like that. You're going to find secrets, you're going to find lore bits, you're going to do all that. There's actually like 90% of the quests are probably in side quests, so there's a ton of side quest content that you're going to be doing alongside the main story quests, where you're going to have to go out into these big open world areas, find these smaller dungeons. Once you find the smaller dungeons, then that's when you're going to break out to the lost zones and do those kind of repeatable. I mean, Remnant 2, I know you've been playing that recently.
Yeah.
Very similar aspect there, where you have, those like little side, events, quests, whatever you want to call them, like little triangles.
Those little side dungeons, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's probably the meat and potatoes of what the game is going to be once you get to that maximum level, is really running those side quests, because it is, I don't want to say it's, there is a difference between procedural based and random, but we do more on the random size of how those dungeons are created. But there's, again, handcrafted tiles, where our level design team has done a fantastic job.
And I wasn't even aware that the dungeons were going to be like procedurally or random generated. See, that's the thing.
Yeah, we can dive a lot into that. So
I definitely want to, but that was one of the questions that I also had, which is like if it was going to be full on MMO or not. You already instantly answered it, because it does. I do get confused a little bit. So how do you play this? You jump in and there's like people ever. So it's kind of like, if you were to describe it like very vaguely, it's kind of like Destiny, basically, is what I'm getting, right? It's kind of like that MMO light type of situation.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be, at least in the beginning stages. We have some pretty ambitious goals of like what we have planned out and where we want to get to. Obviously, we have to survive the first couple of years to get there, which is always, we hope, we pray. The feedback we've gotten during the private tests and DA tests and all that stuff has been really positive, but nobody can talk about it. So it's kind of the running joke in the community. But it's definitely not going to be that jump into Azeroth right off the bat, and you have huge continents to explore and those types of things, and it's completely seamless. There is going to be loading screens between the open world areas, between the lost zones, and part of that is just technologically we really want that action combat to feel as responsive. It's not tab targeting. We want it to be like, okay, I have full control over this character, and there's 4 abilities. You don't get like an entire screen's worth of abilities that you can just like run through all of those. But every single action that you're doing, like how you move your character, how you use those dodges, how you use your heavy attack, your light attack, your air jump attack, your air jast jump attack, your double jump, ground slam attack, like all of those combinations really adds the depth of just like the moment to moment combat versus just, the tap target
to kind of like bring it all together. Say you have a group of friends, because this is going to have co-op. Obviously, you have a group of friends. You all want to get together and play, and it's like, what is the experience like? You meet together at a town, you all form a party, and then you exit out, and you're all in the same instance, guaranteed. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. So Skylight is the main hub that you're going to come right out of the tutorial. You'll choose your Wayfinder. By the way, everybody who's going to play, make sure that when you finish a tutorial decision, that you do stick with who you're going to go. That's it. You're good. We give you the opportunity to go back, do the tutorial, learn the lore of all the 3 different characters that you start with. But once you choose, you choose. Then you have to actually, grind through the game and actually
grind and
pieces,
unlock the other ones. Yeah.
Fair warning to anybody who who makes that selection. So make sure you read before you press yes. Just spamming through stuff. But yeah, so once you go in there, you come out of the tutorial, get a little bit of the back lore, set the stage of like what's going on in the world. Pop into Skylight. Skylight is like the last bastion of humanity, essentially, on the world of Evanor. That's where you'll have, again, it's going to feel like that, traditional MMO experience. Like you're popping into Stormwind, you're popping into Orgrimmar, whatever it might be. There's going to be people everywhere. Especially in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of Spider-Man pointing, because everybody's going to look exactly the same. Nobody's going to have different cosmetic sets to be putting onto it. We explain that in the lore. We can dive into that if you want to. But essentially, everybody's going to be there. You're going to get your friends. It is going to be cross-play, cross-progression. So if you are on different systems, you'll see people on PlayStation. You'll see people on PC. Once it's free to play, it'll be more platforms. Everybody will have like a little emblem of what platform they're playing on. But you'll be able to party up and...
At the beginning, in August 15th, which for people that are not aware, August 15th is when the early access begins. In the beginning, you're just doing PC and PlayStation. PlayStation 4 as well?
Yes, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Steam for PC.
Steam, okay. And basically, those will be full crossplay as well as cross-progression?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you do... One caveat, which is annoying, wish it wasn't the case, but it just is, to get access to the title on whatever platform, you do need to have purchased it to gain access, which is par for the course for what has to happen. But once it goes free to play, that'll be dropped. So like you won't have to buy anything for both platforms to get access, but
to explain
you will
that,
need to purchase it,
Yeah, to just explain that to people real quick, what it means is during this first 6 months, I believe is the case, right? 6 months?
Yep.
Yeah, during the first 6 months after August 15th, if you want to play both on Steam and on PlayStation, you need to buy it on both. But if you buy it on PC and you wait 6 months, then 6 months down the line, you can just play the character that you've been leveling on PC for free on PlayStation with everything that you've collected and all of that jazz, right?
Yep, and then everything that you purchase as well. I mean, the one other caveat too, I don't think it really matters, but I do want people to know, like, there is an in-game currency, so the Rune Silver. If you purchase Rune Silver on a certain platform, it has to stay on that platform. So if you purchase it on PlayStation, it lives on your PlayStation account, technically. So if you log into Steam, you're not going to have that number there. But if you buy something on PlayStation, anything that you bought will be transferable to all of your accounts and whatever platform you're playing on.
This is, for people that don't know, this is like exactly the way it works in pretty much every free-to-play game. It's not like you can just buy whatever game currency on PSN and then, I have that currency on Steam now. It just doesn't work. The stores, they want their cut. It's just the way that it goes. So that there's not a whole lot that you guys can really do about that. I was aware of this. So I wanted to also, we talked about PlayStation, PC, and then you say more consoles later down the line, 6 months from now, but you guys aren't talking about what those are? It's pretty obvious,
it is pretty obvious.
But you're not talking specifics.
Yeah. Scroll to the bottom of our website, and you'll get a good sense of the stuff that's to come. So that's all I can say at the moment.
That's what I expect. So real quick, so we talked about these different Wayfinders and stuff, and one of the questions that I have to bring up is naturally the Holy Trinity. Is it going to be Holy Trinity style, or what are we doing? Because it doesn't feel like that's the case, right?
No, and that's part of one of the core separations, I'd say, from most kind of RPG games, where you have the class and then you really fit within that identity, and you have to like make a new character to get that difference. Which I guess that holds true a little bit, but the sense that every single character, every single Wayfinder can equip literally any weapon in the game really fundamentally changes how you're going to act and where you're going to position yourself in a fight and where you're going to be. Yes, your abilities are going to dictate, okay, am I more of a support role because I can heal? But really it is up to the character. So like Wingrave, I think, is a great example. Everybody
That's
looks at him as
that's
like,
the shield guy, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
big
that's
shield,
my
beefy,
main.
burly boy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's me.
he's awesome. He's awesome. But my favorite way to play him actually was not really support at all. Even though that's like what his kit, screams to you is like, okay, he can put down a shield, he can block projectiles, he can heal, he can put down an invulnerability bubble, which is fantastic to save parties and whatnot. But like I was like, nah, I'm gonna do this intentionally. So in the beta, I equipped 2 daggers, so the Rose and Thorn daggers,
Oh,
and like all I was just like, okay, I can parry. That's my only real defense. And he has one of his third ability puts a mark on the enemies, and every time you hit him, and it's per instance of damage, it returns health. It makes like a little health bob and comes back. So essentially, it turned him into like a DPS like lifesteal rogue character. So like I was rolling around, I was parrying, and then if I ever got low, I'd pop this on them and then hit them a bunch of times and get all my health back. And then eventually, if I needed to, drop down a health bubble to avoid a giant AoE or something like that. So we really want it to be up to the player how they want to play the game. So you're not really locked into that archetype. Yes, there's certain kits that will fit more easily into that category, but if you really want to be like, no, I'm playing Silo as a big tanky frontline boy because I have this
I don't know what
taunt
Silo
clone,
is.
like
I'm
you can
not
do that.
super familiar with
Oh,
the
sorry.
the
I
Wayfinder
know.
names.
I've been talking to. So Silo's one of the other starting characters. He's the ranged guy. So
Okay.
he's got the fire bombs. He's got the slow that you can combo with the fire bombs to do like a napalm burn dot.
Oh man.
He's got like a clone that goes down that taunts enemies and goes into it, and then he has like an ult that he throws. He has like a little pet robot that will do like a giant like electric AOE. But yeah, he's kit from a perspective. He's like, okay, this is like the ranger kind of like DPS range DPS character, and but again, if you want to make him tanky, you can. The echo system is really what is going to determine that, and you can swap those in and out at any point. But the echoes are really how you're going to set your stat lines, and I think there's like 9, 10,
What?
9 to 12 stats that all can get changed around based off the echoes.
Let's
So,
dive into that. What are the echoes?
so think setting the stage a little bit. So you're an echo, technically. So that's why there's copies of everybody flying around. It's kind of think of the multiverse. So the gloom came, mysterious entity. Everybody saw these portals. They've been around for thousands of years, but no one knew what they were. Eventually they'd get turned on. This gloom is like killing everybody in the world. Like what's happening? So the Seekers are the heroes that you see in the cutscenes, and like those are the first 3 heroes that you see. So Omen gets the Seekers together. You're gonna go try to fight back this portal and Skylight. Little bit of spoilers, but you get it in the first few seconds. You try to go in there, you all die, ultimately. So all the Seekers, the original heroes, the actual living ones, they die. So when you come back, you're actually just an echo of those fallen Seekers. So when you come back, that's why there's multiple versions of you, because you're basically a split reality version of the Seeker that had died. So your echo is the echo of the soul of the previous person who died. So when you're playing through the game, the same sort of thing, because you're an echo, you actually get to manipulate kind of the world around you. So when you kill things, like they have a chance of dropping their echo. So it could be like a turtle sword, which is like a giant turtle monster. Like you have a chance of killing that and it'll drop its echo, which is essentially like imbuing their essence, their DNA into your own. So every time that you kill something, you have a chance for it to drop its echo, and its stats will basically get imbued into yourself. So there's a bunch of different types of echoes. So you have your attack echoes, you have your defense echoes, you have your hybrid echoes, you have your balance, and you have your rush type echoes. People who are familiar with the game, we've renamed it. So the type E echoes are probably the most interesting ones. But those are the ones that you get typically from fighting bosses or like really special creatures. And those will actually not just be stats, but it will affect how you play the game pretty fundamentally. So like,
Is this something that you
sort of
equip? Is this something that you
Yeah.
equip, or okay? So you just
So
equip this
think of
echo, and this determines your stats and determines kind of like how tanky you are and all of that stuff.
yeah. So
Okay.
their slots, they're kind of like Diablo gems, but they have a lot more impact, I'd say, because you actually can refine them. You can imbue them together, fuse them is what we call it, and it'll make it a more powerful version. You do have like a capacity, so as you level up, you'll get more capacity, so you can put more powerful ones in there. You'll get more slots, and then they very similar to Warframe, like they'll have an affinity. So if you match the, this is a an offensive slot, this is an attack slot. You
Yeah.
get an attack echo. You put in there, it's cheaper than if you put
And
force
I'm
a different type
assuming
echo in there. So
I'm assuming each of the Wayfinders will have like a different, almost like slot table, which will let you just like okay. So
yeah,
so
so
it'll let them kind of like excel. You can tinker with it, but some will
mhm,
always excel at certain things. Because like
yeah,
when you were describing the kit for Silo, I was like, that sounds great. I like explosions. Explosions are fun, and it'd be great to just have a sword and shield dude that also throws grenades. Like that sounds that sounds exactly like
which you
something I'd
totally
like
could
to
do.
do. So
Yeah.
that sounds very interesting, and the fact that you can kind of like customize that system. It'll remain to be seen like how deep into the meta you can go like that. Like how easy is it to go back? Like let's say, oh, I leveled up Silo as this super tanky dude, but I got to this point and now he sucks. Like, is it easy for me to just fix that, or is that
Yeah.
going to be a problem?
So there are skill trees that as you level up, you will get skill points, and you have to put those into your like abilities to like focus on what abilities you want to use. And then there's going to be even more layers of that. We're not quite ready to announce exactly how it's going to work, but we have heard that players do want more that like tangible customization. So we are working on it. It wasn't initially part of the plan. Again, that kind of community feedback. But as far as the echoes go, you can swap those out literally anytime. So like, we want that to be, okay, here are these. I found some really rare rolls of the echoes. I've invested a lot into those. I've fused them together. I've spent a lot of the in-game resources to make this as a really powerful one. But I already have like 3 other DPSs like before this event, or I guess 2 would be in the beginning, make more sense because it's maximum party size of 3. Then you can swap it out. Like, okay, I just want to be a little bit tankier, so I'm going to put a lot of defense in there, a lot of resilience, a lot of health or whatever it might be. You can swap those out literally anytime. So that customization is the ecosystem is pretty. There's no cost to doing that. There will be a system for like resetting your skill points and your skill trees and stuff like that, which will take some in-game gold or something like that.
My the reason
Yeah.
I kind of like bring that type of feedback is because I always find it to be important that with these types of live service games, balance is always going to be something that the team is going to be working towards. Where it's like, okay, so this character is an outlier; he's just out DPSing everybody else, so everybody wants to be him. We're gonna have to go ahead and nerf that. But in the meantime, there'll be like, I don't know, 1,000, 5,000 players that just invested all of their time in maximizing the DPS of that build, and then in comes the nerf hammer, and I was like, wait a minute, it's like I've been working everything towards this, and now I want to change to something else, and then it's like, oh yeah, but now you got to like deal with all of these other systems that make it
There's
problematic.
no other game that is experiencing exactly like this in their most recent
Oh,
patch
that,
that I can think
no,
of. None at all. That sounds like a complete lie. I don't know what you're talking
Fantasy
about.
land, right?
Yeah, no, everything, every patch, everybody's happy. No, yeah, so completely understandable. Like even the weapons, like again, if you have a weapon, we do make players make a decision before they like commit to going into a hunt, which is our boss fights, or go into an expedition, which are
Oh,
basically
you
our
call them hunts?
last ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
you're
it's a hunt,
you're already
hunts and
winning.
bosses.
You're already winning points with this community.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the Monster Hunter fans, I think will really get a good scratch from the game. Just because again, that's really what you're trying to do is you're hunting very specific enemies, you're hunting very specific bosses, like late game. You're trying to get the roll of whatever essence of them to drop, and then you collect all those pieces from a bunch of different monsters. You put those together, and then you craft your weapon. And there's no time gating or anything for crafting, which is a departure from Warframe,
Yeah.
which is nice. So we're not going to have to pay for convenience of crafting time or anything like that. It's literally you get the pieces, you got them in game. Doesn't matter if you're a free player or a paid player. Literally the same. That's how you're going to craft all the weapons.
I'll
and
want
stuff,
to dive a little bit deeper into that a little bit further ahead, but
Sure.
yeah, let's I want to focus on a couple of things before we go down that road. But yeah, so we can respec all of that stuff for people that are wondering.
Yep.
There will be respec mechanics, and those will be adjusted depending on how you guys feel that it is fair, and if the community feels like, oh, this takes too long to gather, you guys are willing to fix that stuff to be more reasonable. So
100%. Yep.
one of the questions you kind of like rapid fire answered straight through there, which was I was wondering how many players you would actually have in a party, and you said 3. Are there going to be encounters that are going to have feature more than 3 players?
Yeah, and I did get a sneak tease from the team as far as like very early production ideas, kind of like setting the stage in my mind of what like the first raid is going to be. Not ready to reveal the exact numbers and all the details of it yet, but it's I get chills even thinking about it. It's like so freaking cool. But there is going to be raid content right now. Like even in early access, there will be like the open world events that you definitely want to have more than 3 players for. But you won't necessarily be in a party, so you might coordinate with another party or a couple parties together. So you'll be like a parties of 3, and you'll like, okay, let's all coordinate. Let's get in the same instance. Let's go do this world boss or something like that.
Okay.
So that'll totally be an EA. But for the isolated Lost Zone expeditions, those will be limited to 3 players. You can do it as 2 players. You can do it as solo. It's really up to you how to do it. There's even going to be a helper queue, whereas let's say you want to, just help out some random people. You can actually go into that even as a level, max level character. Go in there and you'll actually get incentivized and get helper coins and rewarded where you get exclusive items just for helping newer players and stuff. So
I find that is a key system that a lot of games tend to forget, because a lot of games are like, oh, we want to just focus on our community and the people that are already in, and they tend to forget that new player experience, which is something that I'm always advocating. It's like we need to get new players into these games all the time. So the fact that you're already considering like, okay, there's a helper queue and there's going to be rewards, which I'm assuming eventually these like helper coins, they can be used for cosmetics and other stuff, because fashion is always the real end game in most of these games. But yeah, that's very good that you guys are already considering that stuff. So I was wondering about the scaling though. So you said you can do these lost zones, which again is something that I want to get deep into as well. But you can do these with 1 players, 2 players, 3 players. How's the scaling going to work?
yeah, so it definitely scales up. Let's say you're all the same power level. The power level is the main, source of truth, I'd say, for how the difficulty scales. So as you increase your stats, like the average and conglomeration of all those stats will turn into an average power level. And then the power level, each instance that you go into has increasing, levels of difficulty. So the first level instances will be, 500 power level. The next, tier of that will be 1,000 and 1,500, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it will always, I know this is a scary word, it will scale you down if you're overpowered, because we don't want people just coming in as a level 30 and just blowing through the entire content, hitting everything, and just like whoever's the lowest level there just doesn't get to participate. So there will be scaling to make that it won't trivialize any of the experience whatsoever. But it will, if you are powerful, if you're overpowered, it will bump you above, like the average highest difficulty. So you'll still feel powerful, you'll still feel strong. You can definitely help lower level people, power level or whatever it might be. But you're going to actually have to participate. You're actually going to have to work together. You're actually going to have to be, use a teamwork versus just someone coming in, speedrunning the entire dungeon and ending it. So there is scaling towards that. So you will go up and down, but like in the open world area, like Highlands, for example, if you go into there, it will power level you down to just, again, be able to experience the open world area. There will be areas of that where the creatures are really weak and you'll still be one-shotting them, like in that starter area. Think of like, I forget the exact analogies, but there'll be the super low areas, so you'll be really powerful. You'll go to the darker, deeper areas of it, and it'll still be harder. But if you did go together and you wanted to go fight the world boss there, like you'll be a special kind of scaling there where you'll get uncapped. So like if you really want to push your build to the limit, there'll be certain areas that you go into, and it'll remove that kind of that power level scaling restriction because you need it to take on that boss.
So if you're playing with friends and you're just like way ahead of them, it'll just constantly scale you down to make sure that you're not hard carrying. I know that for some people, this is going to be like, oh, but I want to be able to hard carry my friends. Me personally, I prefer it the other way around. I like the fact that, when I get together with my friends, maybe I'm not necessarily carrying and it still feels like everybody's meaningfully contributing, because I find it to be boring for the other people involved. But I know that one of the things that some people would want is probably to have the option. I assume that at the beginning, at least, you're not going to be giving that. But just like, oh no, I just, this person agrees they want me to just like burn through this. You guys are like, no, we're not doing that.
I'd say the option and the choice comes whether or not you're going to be partying with lower level folks or not. So if you want to feel super powerful and you want to go for it and you want to do it solo, we're much more okay with that. And it's your experience that you're getting to choose versus forcing that on other players. Because again, you have to think anything that we do as a party, that could be an understanding agreement between you and your direct friend that you're trying to help through. But also that's the same system can work with a random person. So we don't want that experience with a random person to be awful. So if you're ever partying with somebody, then that's where it's going to be much more enforced. Whereas if you're going to do it solo, it's your complete own choice. You're going to feel way more powerful doing it like as a solo player.
And the scaling also in terms of like the monsters, I'm assuming they get more health, they deal more damage, or do you spawn more monsters in depending on the number of players?
Yeah, it's definitely... Like, I think we've struck a pretty nice balance. One experience I hated with Skyrim was when you just max it up to max difficulty. And it's like, okay, well, now it's just a huge damage sponge. And I do 0 damage and it one-shots me and everything like that. So it doesn't feel like that. But it definitely will amp up. So you're still doing big numbers. It is just going to be, you're going to have to be a little bit more tactical as far as, okay, it's going to take some more hits. I can't just, mindlessly click. I do need to be paying attention to the entire fight. I need to be parrying. I do need to be dodging. I do have to be managing my stamina, my break, and all those other factors to get through the fight. But yeah, like if you go into an area that is too hard, let's say you just launch into the game and you're like, I'm running straight to the end of this open worlds area, you will get murdered. But that's fine. Some people are allowed to do that. But if you want to, actually progress through the different zones and the different stages, then you'll notice yourself like go back to those earlier zones. You're like, oh my God, I'm so much more powerful than I was. So that part, and personally, I love that. I hate kind of going into a game and no matter where I go, everything feels the same. And I feel like I've actually gotten weaker in some games when I level up. That's not the case. You definitely have distinct feelings of like, okay, I've graduated this zone. These guys are jokes to me now. But there's still areas that give me some challenge. So
one of the interesting things about a lot of these, I'm not gonna say MMO, but I do want to bring like kind of like MMO light type of games and even MMOs. Like a lot of people, really, they don't have like a good schedule to coordinate with others, and they're just like, I need to play this solo. What is the solo player experience like in Wayfinder?
It's pretty similar. I love multiplayer games, like just the sense, and it's just the stupid BS that happens, honestly, which is probably my favorite aspect of it, which is not even gameplay. It's just like stupid stuff that you cause your friends to do. So that's definitely a different aspect of the game that you can't get on a solo experience. But as far as like gameplay wise and progression and stuff like that, you can play through pretty much all of the content as a solo player. I won't be surprised. I want to say like the world bosses and some of like the hardcore bosses you can't do solo, but I know the internet.
There's gonna be people. Yeah, there's gonna be
people doing it. So like I'm not gonna say they can't do it. But there is design choices that we want. We incentivize a group kind of coordination for some of the challenges in the game, but I know there's going to be some freaking insane people out there. I have no doubt.
Is there going to be like
you can
matchmaking? Is it going to be a matchmaking and stuff that you can like say you're jumping into a dungeon or something like that? You can matchmake with other people?
Yeah, so once you go up to the Gloom Gate is like the main hub. So once you've gone out into the open world, you found all your little mini dungeons, you can basically just stay in Skylight and, interact with those dungeons that you've discovered via the Gloom Gate. And then in the hub where you're going to be able to put in all the imbuements and create the mutators, which we haven't even touched on yet.
Yep.
In the top corner, it'll say like, okay, do you want to be in matchmaking? Do you want to do it solo? Do you want to do duo? How do you want to interact with this? And then the helper system is like another kind of matchmaking queue that'll be completely random. It'll be up to where players are needing help at. So again, you're giving up a little bit of that freedom of choice, but you're getting rewarded with the helper coins.
Also, real quick, because of a recent experience, you will be able to form parties between Steam and PS and PlayStation, right? Okay.
Yeah, so everybody's going to get like a unique social code in the top right.
A friends list type of situation.
which as a content creator yourself, you might want to come up with a custom little overlay to hide that, unless you want anybody in the internet flooding your friend box. Close
Yeah.
little disclaimer. But yeah, there will be a social code that will be unique to you as your account. So whatever platform you're playing on, people can hop into a party together.
Okay. So one of the things which kind of connects with the solo player experience is, and I don't know if you guys are ready to talk about this yet, but it is, how does the main campaign fit into the gameplay loop? Because you've said that a big portion of the game is going to be more side quests and stuff that you encounter out in the world, but like I'm assuming there's going to be one main campaign, one main thread.
Yeah, so the main story quest is really how it's going to unlock new features, I'd say. So in order to actually get access to all the lost zones, you're going to have to progress through the main story quest. So there's a core main story. This is the ones that are going to be fully voice acted, and you really get a good sense of the lore. I really do recommend, we have some phenomenal names as far as just like the voice acting talent and, the amount of effort we're putting on the narrative side to really build this world out. So instead of just spamming the click through the main story quest, actually getting those instances to really set the foundation of everything this game will come. So like those will be the ones that are much more fleshed out story wise, much more lore driven, getting the sense of the personalities of the different wayfinders that you're playing versus the characters that you're going to find in NPCs in the world. And then that's how you're going to find all of the different lost zones that you'll eventually get to grind late game for the individual crafting components. But also unlocking different systems that you can progress your character through. So like housing, you have to get to a certain point in the main story quest, and then a side quest opened up, and that's how you're going to get access to the housing, and then like crafting stuff for the housing system. Your echoes, you're actually going to have to do a task, but you need to get a certain point in the main story quest in order to access that side quest. We might have shown off like the hook shot and other, the mounts when the mounts are in. Like that'll be like a main story progression that you're going to want to push yourself through. Get to those bosses. Getting to the bosses, you're going to have to progress the main story quest to unlock those bosses and things like that. So all of those things will make sense contextually, like why they're available through the context of the story. But we still have like the whole open world areas, and anything that you've done up to that point, you can experience and roll as many times as you want. Just like that quick, I have 15-20 minutes, I just want to do a lost zone real quick before work. You can jump into those versus like trying to progress like a full quest chain.
Okay, so basically that quest is going to be very mandatory in terms of progression and advancing through the game. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms
and the
of
whole new areas too. So like the getting access to that next like open world area, you're gonna have to progress through the main story quest, beat like the main boss. Think of them kind of like big chapters. So like there's gonna be like the chapter boss that you have to beat, and that'll like unlock the next area, and it'll make sense why you're there and what you're trying to do through the context of the main story quest.
How many hours, like say someone just beelines the quest, and again I'm gonna throw questions out that you might not be ready to answer, but it's like how many hours are you estimating that it's going to take like an average player to get through the campaign to unlock everything at this point?
If they're just doing the main story quest, it's so hard to say. If you're being like a super try-hard, sweaty gamer doing nothing but the main story quest,
nobody does that.
Nobody does that. I am not guilty myself. I could say you could get through at least what we're going to offer in like the Founder Season 1.
Yeah.
And like it's the main story quest. You could probably do it in a good 30 hours if you're doing nothing else. I'd say that's pretty safe. I know there'll probably be people that just like hold my beer.
But skip all the cutscenes, go.
Yeah, exactly. Which please don't do. Like, oh my gosh, they're so good. Like, especially the second zone they get into, like, and you start really getting to the nitty gritty of like, oh shit, what's going down here? So I'd say 30 hours safe, but I do think like again 80-90% of the quest and like the content and the stuff, like our side quest team does a fantastic job, like, and you'll learn a lot about the game if you do read through like those little notes. Like that's all on the side quest side of things. Yeah. So like that's ignoring all of that. That's ignoring all of the like, okay, I really do want to upgrade this weapon. I want to get the right type of echoes to really,
I think that when it comes to that type of stuff, it's also important not to make it too daunting, because it will scare some players away if it's like, oh yeah, it takes about 100 hours to unlock all the things in the game. People are like, what? Like,
Yeah.
like that's always the thing. Like, for instance, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy 14, but to try and sell a new player on Final Fantasy 14.
I mean, I'm a Dota 2 player, so I completely get that. Something that's just like, yep, sorry, it's either you know how to play or you're
Yeah,
screwed.
it's kind of rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is something that you plan on adding on, I'm assuming, as more seasons come along and stuff. You're planning on adding more to the main story campaign as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, so we're doing like a seasonal cadence. So every 3 months is going to be the next season, and the next season is going to be essentially you got to see the Venomous anime,
Yeah.
but that's how we're going to be kind of introducing characters. Really exciting announcements coming out for the next character, which we've teased at. But essentially, yes, every season, every 3 months, is going to be that new character release, their new signature weapon, and then like flushing out all the content in the previous that was previously in the game. So like new events and the lost zones and that sort of thing. And then every other season is going to be all of that plus a whole new open world area or lost zone area. So that's the cadence is going to be. So every 6 months, you're going to get an expansion of the game, of the footprint of the game, of the world, where you're going to be able to go, what you're going to be able to interact with. But every season, you're going to get at least a new Wayfinder, a new character, new events, new side quests, all that sort of
So
jazz.
every 3 months, a new character.
Yep. Every
That
3 months, a
is-
new character.
That is
with
really
new
setting
weapons and
yourselves
bunch
up
of
for a
stuff.
lot of hard work.
Yes, it is, and we are we're a small and scrappy team, but we set up ourselves. I mean, we've been working on this game for almost 5 years at this point behind the scenes. So we really wanted to be able to, like, even when we announced, because we didn't announce until Summer Games Fest, which was less than a year ago. Or it was the Game Awards, sorry. So
Yeah,
the Game Awards is when we first announced, and we were like, by the way, you're not going to have to wait 5 years and just like never hear from us again. It's literally next week is when we're doing the first test. So we've been putting a lot of work in the back end to get this game ready to roll. And, the amount, again, I want to temper expectations, but the amount of surprise that we got from players, like when they got in, they're like, holy crap, this is a pre-alpha test. Like, okay. So there was a lot of excitement as far as just like that. But I do want to temper that. Like, this is literally, even once we get to free to play, this is just a fraction of everything that we have planned. But we do hope that the stuff that is there is enough to really sink your teeth into and get people excited to, stick around for years to come.
Okay, so let's tackle a little bit of the gameplay loop. You've talked about open areas, dungeons, all of this stuff. Let's say I've been playing the game for, I don't know, 40 hours now. I log in. What am I looking forward to?
So at that point, I'd say you've probably gone through all the quests. You've probably gotten through the bosses, or you have just like the last couple bosses that you're trying to fight through. I'd say you'd be wanting to log in. There's one sexy item that you saw someone running around with, and you're like, I'm going to get that item, damn it. Or you looked in the crafting system and you saw you'll get to a full list, a codex of like, okay, this is the item, these are the parts, these are where the parts drop, and you'll basically be pulling out like a Pokedex of like how to hunt down the stuff that you're looking for. So you'll probably be like, okay, I need to go get this piece. Like, I might not get the full thing, but I'm going to go track down this piece. So you're going to open up, that dungeon, that lost zone. You're going to run through it. There are modifiers that you can do to help make that more reality.
So let me just interrupt you there
maybe you'll
real
dive into
quick.
that.
We are talking about targeted loot, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my god. Okay. Now you have my attention, because like one of the reasons why I like Monster Hunter so much is because, like, hey, I want to make the fire sword. I'm gonna kill the monster that drops the parts to make the fire sword, and then I'm gonna make the fire sword. Like, it's not 100% guaranteed that I get all the parts, but I know exactly where it is. It's not like, oh, just farm random things and eventually you might get it. It's like, no, I love targeted stuff. If I can just be like, no, this is where I want to go, I can do this and repeat this until I get it, that is perfect.
Yeah. No, that's going to be the kind of the bread and butter of the game. It's a collection based game. So I mean, again, that Monster Hunter itch, like, it's really going to be thematic to what you're trying to kill and why it makes sense. So like, Venom is one of the daggers, which is like they're dripping poison and they look like, kind of bone fangs sort of things. To get that, you're going to have to go kill creatures that probably are venomous or poisonous or have some sort of like dot mechanic to it. You kill those, there's a chance that, they have a big loot table, but there's a chance that that piece drops from it. You get all those together, then you get to craft whatever weapon you're looking for. And I think we have 17 weapons that we're launching at early access. But again, there's going to be signature weapons and other weapons dropping every single 3 months that you're going to continue, and then eventually it's going to be like a whole freaking array of things. That each single weapon has a unique ability to it as well. So even if it's in the same weapon class, each weapon within that class has a unique weapon ability, so there is a reason to collect them, to try them out and use for very specific encounters.
Interesting. So you were saying that we'll be able to modify, like, what was it, dungeons or something? Where?
Yeah. So that's the bread and butter. What makes this game daunting, but also interesting. So in the beginning, there are 5 different imbuements. And think of the imbuements as basically the laws of nature, so to speak. So you'll have these gems that you'll find through the game, or you'll be able to craft, and they each imbue different elements. So there's solar, which is kind of fire. There's flora, which is like earth, poison sort of things. There's shadow, which is kind of like the darkness and the gloom and sort of things like that. We are going to be increasing in that, which is terrifying to think about because the number of permutations that come out of that is just mind-boggling. But every single combination of those things, and as you progress the main story quest, you can slot in more and more of those, and each combination of those makes a different result. So when you go into a lost zone, let's say you're loading up Codex halls, which is like the beginning one, you just do base Codex halls. Everything is kind of just status quo, normal baseline. But you throw in solar. Okay, now you have like fire pits popping up, and you have kind of like a burn effect on enemies, and it actually modifies what events are going to spawn and what elites are going to have, and that sort of thing. So you actually can, we say the tagline "control the chaos." That's what we mean. Is if you do have a very targeted and specific thing that you're searching for, and then you're looking to to gain, you're going to look through your material codex and you're like, okay, I need to do this with this. This is the highest chance that this event spawns. Is you go in there, you put those combinations of imbuements. It makes a modifier. The modifier does unique things to the level. It adjusts, the loot tables that are dropped. It adjusts the spawn rate. It adjusts, what the experience is.
One thing, it adjusts the loot tables, but it doesn't change them, right? It just modifies the percentage of getting certain items. So say if I'm a player that like, I don't want to deal with all that, but I still get a chance of getting that piece of loot. It's just a smaller chance.
Yeah, so it's there, like the core of it. I'd say it's adjusting that 10% versus like fundamentally changing the entire level. Like you're still going there. It's going to be mostly the main experience, but if you really want to like edge up your chances of getting a particular thing, then that's how you're going to do it. But there will be certain cases where, you need to have a certain modifier created through those imbuements for the event to spawn. That's going to continue to get more flushed out and more tangible than like in the early days. But it's definitely, again, you think of it right now, you're going to have 2 slots. I think maybe you'll get to the third slot, but there's going to be 2 slots that you can put on any dungeon that you get into if you progress the main story quest, and then how you combine those 5 different things. So if you're doing a double flora versus a flora and a solar versus a solar and a darkness or shadow, like all of those have very different results and different implications for like what the expedition is going to be or the hunt is going to be. So that's a lot of one. We don't want, like, one of the reasons that we're not like hosting like an official wiki and stuff like that. We want this to be community driven. Is like we want to kind of help players figure that stuff out, but we want that discovery as like a pillar of like figuring out what the combinations are, and like the community getting on Reddit and like, by the way, if you put these 2 combinations, you're gonna get this, and everybody's like, oh my god, I've been looking for that. Like we want that to happen. So
that's definitely going to be a thing. That's actually one of the things that I love doing. Is I don't like seeing all of the solutions online, right? I like experiencing it myself and all of that stuff, and just actually trying to discover secret things. I feel like that's one of the things that we kind of lost over the years with the internet. Internet's fantastic. Everybody's connected. Everybody's playing games together. It's great. But the problem is also that information spreads too fast a lot of times, and you're like, oh man, I really wish that I knew how to figure this thing out. And somebody's like, yeah, here's the solution to the puzzle, and here's somebody. You're like, oh damn, thanks, that was great.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I completely get what you're saying, but yeah, so we do want, and like that's why we want the codex, and we want like there to be tools to make it more useful. But like you have to find the thing first, and now you get the
So there will be like
the
information in the
reference
game.
guide. Yeah,
Yeah, so
and
you'll have like a scrapbook.
There'll be hints. There'll be like once you've found a thing previously, and you just need to like a reference guide to look up like where did this drop from? Oh, it dropped from there. Okay, this is how I'm gonna go find it. But then you're gonna be able to we're not just gonna be like, here's all the answers. Just go to our website out of the game and figure out what you need to do. No, we want you to be engrossed in the game and be cool. We want you to show off to your friends, like, oh my god, I figured this thing out. That's what we want. So with
the what do you call them? Mutated imbuements with these imbuement situation.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask? Damn it, I lost it. It's like, for starters, how hard is it for you to get these imbuements?
They're pretty common. They're a fairly cheap resource to craft. It's just basically
so like, let's say I do one dungeon or something like that, and it's like, oh, here's a couple of imbuements and you're good to go. It's not like, oh, we expect you to grind for 3 to 4 hours to be able to do one special dungeon.
No, they're pretty common, and we give you a lot of ways of being able to craft them. You can even break down other resources to craft other resources and basically kind of recycle in a sense. So
okay.
Yeah, imbuements, you're not going to be like flooded in them, but you're going to have. I've never been like, oh crap, I can't physically get this imbuement that I need.
Okay, so and what if let's say I make a dungeon and I do like double solar because I want to get this super special fire thing. I jump into the dungeon, I get overwhelmed, I die. For starters, how many continues do you have, or can you just keep going until your equipment's broken? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so you'd be able to run it as many times as you like until your soul is broken. But there is incentives for being more efficient. So we've adjusted a little bit, making like exploration more the focus than just deaths. Initially, it was just like if you die, you lose a reward. So like at the top of the screen, you'll see like there's a bar with like grayed out chests, and the more you explore, the more of those chests that you're going to unlock, up to 3. And then once you complete the entire expedition, there's going to be loot tables specifically to those chests. So you want to unlock those chests. Ideally, you want to get all 3 of them and complete the zone. And then you get everything that's inside of the dungeon and those 3 bonus chests at the end. But if you die a bunch of times, then those chests will start to get X'd out. So you do want to find that balance between like, okay, I'm actually able to do this dungeon. I'm not wasting resources because I'm able to do it in one shot. I'm able to explore everything, get those 3 chests, versus loading up something that's probably a little above where you should be in the game. You're able to squeak by and get through it, but you've lost out on all those 3 chests. Then it's just, you've not used your resources.
And the imbuements only get used up once you actually complete the dungeon, then, so you don't get penalized for dying.
No, so if you give up on the dungeon, then they get used, but they don't get used every time you respawn. So like there's going to be checkpoints throughout the dungeon that you unlock that you can kind of fast travel between to find nooks and crannies and secrets and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so once you're committed, basically. It's like, yep, I'm using this thing, I'm running this dungeon, and I have to do it all the way, otherwise this resource is wasted. Essentially, yeah. So it is a commitment once you go into that, but that's another reason why it is incentivized to party up with either random players or things, because only the party leader, whoever initiates the search, will use the resources. So you can kind of
you can split
trade
resources,
that way. Yeah, exactly. So like, hey, I don't have 2 solar, my buddy does, let's make him party leader. He'll put that imbuement in. We get to do it together. It's his resources on the line, but we're stronger together, so we can get through it better with less risk, because there is reviving. So if you get down, you'll be able to revive your teammates, and that doesn't have a penalization. So yeah.
So in that point, we were talking about just regular dungeons, right? The stuff that we're talking about, because you also brought up lost zones, or are lost zones the things that we're talking about? So
yeah, the lost zones are our word for dungeons, just thematically. So yeah, the lost zones are dungeons. The opposite would be hunts. Hunts are essentially straight to a boss fight, and both of those can be edited by imbuements. The combination of imbuements makes the mutator. So if it ever gets confusing. So the mutator is the ultimate result of whatever imbuements that you put in there, and that can apply to both lost zones and hunts. The open world area is the open world area. You don't have a chance to manipulate that because you're not actually going into a gloom bait or gloom rift.
So these are like your three main combat areas that you guys are really focused on. There's the open world area, which will have events and boss fights. Then there's these lost zones, which are basically dungeons. And then there's these hunts, which are bosses. Can you also find like maybe smaller bosses inside of dungeons, or are dungeons more about the trash mobs, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so trash mobs would make up the most of it, and then it's just exploring the tiles. There's going to be like puzzles in the tiles that you have to do. There's secrets in the tiles. Like the way we've actually designed the tiles is like not only will they just get placed and you'll experience them, but they're also rotated. So each like the level design team does a really cool job of like every direction in which you would kind of go through a tile. You'll see stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see unless you backtracked or went through like a particular way. So you'll explore, like it really adds, it seems like a simple thing, but it really adds a level of just like making each one feel fresh. Even I've 800 hours in the game at this point, and like it still feels good going through dungeons where I've felt other games where I go in there and it just feels like, okay, it's just the exact same thing over and over again. Like the way the tile system is set up, it really does feel fresh every time you're going in there. But there will be elite mobs and rare mobs that do spawn. And if you do find one of those, that'll be really sweet to kind of kill. And then there will be like a big kind of fight at the end, whether it's, you know, a mini boss or if it's just like a wave survival or whatever it be, there's going to be lots of variation there. So,
but you can get, let's say, end game quality loot on both of these experiences, on both Lost Zones as well as hunts, and
you'll want to do both.
Loot. Yeah, you'll want to do both.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So like the events are probably the more things that you're going to be hunting because like the events have a chance of spawning on a particular tile set, affected by whatever mutator they have equipped, and they will have, you know, either a guaranteed chance or a chance of dropping an item that you need for a crafting component. So and then particular lost zones will have a higher chance of those events spawning or the only chance of those events spawning. And then hunts, you'll need a particular drop from a boss to complete an item. So each weapon will have, you know, there's the recipe and then there's three different components, the essence, the spirit.
So you'll always be expected to, for a single craft, you do a couple of dungeons and then you do like a couple of hunts and, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a different combination for whatever you're looking to craft, but it'll be fairly clear. Like, okay, I need to go fight a boss for this piece. Okay, I need to go run this lost zone to get this event to spawn to get this piece. You put all this together to make what you're looking for.
Sticking with loot, so we already talked about how, you know, you craft weapons and stuff like that, and you go and you hunt these different materials. Can you just find like a full-fledged weapon out in the world, or is that not a thing? Usually, you're going to be crafting.
No. Yeah, so you can actually buy this. Initially, you could like craft the starter weapons, but that kind of felt bad because they're just the starter weapons. They're not that sexy. So you'd be able to buy the four main kind of starter weapons if you want. If you just want like the base two-hander, the daggers, the rifle, or the sword and shield, you can buy any of those without crafting. So that'll just give you a direct weapon, but everything else has to be crafted.
Okay.
So, and again, going into the MTX thing, which I'm sure we'll do later, but those are craftable if you're a free player or a paid player. Like that's the exact same experience. Like you go, you fight the things, you get the things, you get to craft it. No crafting. You don't have to wait a day or 48 hours of real time to make the weapon.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So besides the weapons, what other type of loot can you look forward to? Because I don't know if you're doing armor sets or what the deal is. I know that a lot about this game is going to be about skins because, like you said, it is a character game. So you're going to be doing a lot with skins because it is going to be free to play. But like, do we get to equip armor pieces, or are we doing like necklaces and rings so that you can change the rest with skins? What's the deal?
Yep. So you're going to have 3 accessory slots. So those are going to be more of like your rings, your trinkets, like other sort of actual slots that will give big boosts to stats. And that'll be expanded upon as well. And then those will have echo slots inside of them. I'd say the biggest kind of comparable to armor is going to be the echoes. So the echoes are really kind of the bread and butter of like how you're going to be crafting your build. So you're going to want to be fighting specific enemies to get a chance drop. And there's going to be different rarities of the echoes that drop. So like there's going to be common, uncommon, rare, epic. So you do want, ideally before you start investing in fusing echoes together, you want to get the best drop variety of the echo that you're looking for. So there's a huge variety of echoes that you're going to start collecting and slotting in, and you'll be able to slot between different armor sets and stuff like that. There isn't going to be your traditional chest piece, armor piece, leg piece, anything like that. All of that is going to be essentially cosmetic, but the weapons are going to level up. You're going to be able to temper them, and then you're going to increase like how many echo slots that you can put into there, and then swap those in and out. And then you're going to have consumables as well. So you'll be able to craft same process as like making a weapon or anything like that. You're going to go out, hunt particular things. You're going to make a consumable that has unique buffs based off of what you want to consume. You put that in your consumable slot.
And it's the same thing for your accessories, I would imagine. You go out and
you
craft stuff. Okay, so everything is about crafting, basically. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be able. There are merchants that you can buy accessories from. Some of them, but there is set bonuses to collecting a particular set of accessories. So ideally, you do want to get all three of them in the part of the same set, and then you get a bonus for that. So you will need to one might be a drop, one might be a craftable, one might be a purchasable, or any combination of the three. But there will be set bonuses for your accessory slots as well. So,
okay,
I think that's, yep. But the main bread and butter is really going to be like, okay, what weapon do I want? How do I craft it? And then once you get the weapon, that's kind of a character in of itself, because one, you can swap it between any of your characters at any time. So let's say you get a weapon, you level it all the way up to 30. That level 30 weapon will transfer to a level 1 Wayfinder. So you give yourself a huge power boost, and you're able to access content way faster on that second character. And like all those echo slots, that is self-contained within the weapon. So like the weapon is kind of a secondary character that you're leveling up in tandem with your Wayfinder that you have equipped. And that will carry between characters. So that power transfers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
If you're playing a different character, you get the weapon that you're already leveled up and you get a boost. That's going to be particularly interesting for new seasons if you're playing like one of the new characters or something. Which kind of brings us over to the business model. So describe what the business model is going to be for Wayfinder.
So this is, again, for the Warframe players out there, it's going to be just very familiar. So this is the DEs, which one of the few games that I think is a free-to-play game that has survived. I mean, I think they've just passed their 10th year of being on the market. And like, if you look at their Steam charts, it's actually just, there's the dips between seasons and stuff like that. But they've been at a steady rise for 10 freaking years, which is nuts. So that's the model that just makes sense for us. So it's free and fair. Anything that is gameplay related is going to be earnable for free players. Again, I'll jump in front of this. Yes, everybody is concerned about the pay to win and things like this. It absolutely is a power benefit to getting heroic Kairos. We get that. But it's the same sort of thing with Excalibur Prime with Warframe. Like, ultimately, we're small, and this is a very ambitious team, or ambitious project for the size of our team. We're really excited for it. We think it's going to be really successful, but we do want to give a special thank you to the people that are willing to throw out $150 is, if it's USD, it is regional pricing, but $150 essentially is not an inconsequential amount of money. So if people are willing to throw that out there as a show of faith, we want to give them something really special that is going to be really valuable and sought after years to come. But we want to give something special that we're here at the foundation to really get this project off the ground. So
it's like the business model is essentially going to be I was more bringing it up to the tower. What are they called?
The reward tower.
The reward towers, but you're going to be selling these reward towers, which are kind of like battle passes for people that are wondering. They're also going to have like a free track as well, right? These things.
Yes.
So that's kind of like how you guys are going to be bringing in, some revenue, because at the end of the day, people are like, oh, it's going to be a free-to-play game. Yeah, but you have to bring in revenue from somewhere. So it's going to be that, and it's going to be skins. And at launch, there's also going to be this heroic Kairos. Mm-hmm. I want to dive deeper into the heroic Kairos. But before we do, let's dive into that heroic thing, because heroic has been kind of like during that stream, a lot of people were making the comparison to Prime Warframes, and it's like I played a decent chunk of Warframe in the beginning days, which is actually funny because back when I first played Warframe, I got like a code from some random website that was doing like closed beta giveaways or whatever. I signed up for a random account for that website and they gave me a closed thing. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. And you could record, you could publish because there wasn't an NDA. So I'm like, I record a little bit of gameplay and I was like, man, there's so much potential in this game. Like you're talking super early days. There was like 2 Warframes or something like that, or maybe 3. And super, super early days. And I remember people would watch my videos like, it's the same thing over and over again. This game's going to die.
Here we are, 10 years later.
When is it going to die? It's still alive somehow, and apparently pretty freaking successful. Now, when it comes to Warframe, I am known for telling communities like, look, I don't agree with some of the stuff that Warframe does, like the fact that you can flat out, you just buy a weapon. You just buy a weapon, you just buy Prime Warframe, all of this stuff. I think that you are paying for power in the game. I don't think that that is a big controversial take. And here's the thing. I'm not against it because it's a free-to-play game. You do whatever you want. It's like if somebody was paying, let's say, I don't know, $50 to play the game and then you're selling them weapons, then I have a problem with it. But it's like, it's a free-to-play game, you're selling them weapons. Hey, it's whatever. You do whatever you want. But... you know, I'm concerned with this heroic thing because fundamentally you're going to have Kairos in the game, correct? Kairos is going to be a regular character. And then heroic Kairos is going to be factually more powerful.
Yep.
Are there going to be like heroic versions of other Wayfinders like, say, Wingrave or whatever, heroic Wingrave?
Yep. Yeah, so we will have heroic versions of the other heroes available to anybody and everybody down the line. Yeah. So those won't be exclusive. The only one that is literally you can never get them again will be Kairos, and that's through the Exalted Founder Pack.
Yeah. But so what is your intention of how you grind for? Let's say I'm really into Wingrave. I want to have heroic Wingrave, which is going to be a more powerful version of Wingrave. How do I go through the grind to do it? If you guys are even ready to talk about that.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to say. I have assumptions internally of how we're going to do it, and I think it's just going to be a more rare and more difficult kind of journey to get there. But we haven't planned any of them out yet. So I don't know. It's going to be up to the design team how we do that. But I do know they are going to be accessible for all players. The only one that is going to be literally behind this, one time only, is going to be Heroic Kairos, just like Excalibur Prime. So I thought there was another point I thought I had in there.
Yes, I'll tell you what the other point is.
Stats and stuff. Yes, go for it. Please do.
It's the Enchanted Tower compass that you'll probably want to bring up as well, no?
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's one thing I do want to clarify. Yeah. Like, that is purely the reward tower. So that's purely just on, like...
I realized it because...
It's not characters, yeah.
I was like, the first time I heard, wait a minute, XP booster.
Like, the website doesn't do a great job either. It just shows, like, increased experience. And I'm like, oh no, everybody's going to yell, here come the pitchforks. But yeah, no.
Permanent XP increase, and I was like, whoa. And then you guys were clarifying in the stream, and I was like, most people won't hear that.
I know, and people won't hear this either, and they'll continue to get it for years to come. So I get that, but again, that's purely for the reward towers, which, again, there are going to be free versions of the reward towers moving forward. So once we go free to play, there's generally 100 items that you're going to get in the reward towers. 25 of those will be available to free players. And then if you get the premium ones, then you're going to have the opportunity to unlock all 100. And then the nice thing about it is it does not expire. So if you do have the 5%, it honestly doesn't matter. You just get access to it faster one way or another. Because even if you're a free player and you don't have that 5% bonus, like you can come back.
It's just 5%? Because I don't remember the specific...
yeah, and I'm happy to dive into the specifics on this because I wanted to get those. I want the truth out there. I don't want to hide from it or whatever. I just want to tell you guys.
Yeah, because I just saw permanent XP boost, and I'm like, I don't know how much that is. It seems pretty friggin' important.
500%. No, 5%. So
it's
5%
just 5%
on the
faster.
Tower.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not even that much at all.
It's a boost. It's a nice thing. Yeah. Like if you really there's like one exclusive weapon skin or something in the past, and that you want to get faster than everybody else, it'll give you that edge to get it before anybody else. But there is. Like, and how that system works is really cool. And right now it's going to be kind of in its base phase where you get to see the whole map. You get to see what all the little nodes are, the runes are.
I'm sorry, just one more thing before we dive into the tower. Yeah, I get it. But like the The compass, is that something that people are only going to be able to get through the 150 founders pack? Okay, so you're not going to be able
Yeah.
to buy that separately later.
Yeah, same with the tokens, which we haven't to do. See, another a whole bag of can of worms. But yeah, the everything that's in the founders packs are exclusive to the founder packs.
Okay.
So include like Hero Kairos is obviously the big one,
Yeah.
but everything in those, again, this is going to be a free to play game. So if people are willing to drop money to play an early version of the game, we want to give them something special. And that's what it boils down to essentially.
Yeah. But yeah, no, keep going about the tower, the reward tower that you were going into.
So reward tower is really cool because one, it's not just the the traditional string and you get the cards, and as you level up you get the cards and like, ooh, a free one, ooh, this is a locked one and it looks way better. But the reward tower is really, you get like this entire kind of like isometric dungeon board game kind of setup that there's branching paths and like all sorts of different kind of web matrix that you can get to the end of it. And then once you get to the end of it, like it'll open up a whole new one, and there's multiple. That's why it's the tower. There's multiple levels, and then once you get to the top of it, that's like where the really cool item is. Whether it's like part for the newest character, or a pet that you get to have in the game with you, or cool emote or weapon skin or whatever it's going to be. But you get to sense of like all the options, and they're like, ooh, I really want this item over this item. You can go down the path to go collect that one, and then progress. And
you can see
an area, then come back to it later.
You can see all of the floors before you start committing to the path that you want to take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get to really get a sense of like, okay, what is the path I want to carve through to get these exclusive items? I don't really care about the others. You can go and do that. But
and then you can go back and grab all of the things. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting, so when you're doing just quests, and there's going to be some quests that give more battle pass or reward tower experience than others, it's just kind of like another experience bar. So every time you fill that up, you get a key. With the key, you can open a room, you get the reward.
Can you buy the keys?
Yes, you can buy the keys. So if you want to progress through it quicker, you can just straight up purchase the keys. Again, they are just cosmetic differences, so it's up to you if you want to do that. But yeah, if you do want to speed run through the keys, but you won't be able to purchase keys past, let's say you're at level 95, you wouldn't be able to buy more than 5 more keys. So once you have 100 keys, the whole place is complete. So it's going to restrict, you can't overstat keys, and keys don't transfer to the next season. So every reward tower is like its own isolated. There's 100 maximum keys that I can acquire. They're completely free to acquire via playing the gameplay, or if you want to purchase them.
So, but do free-to-play players get like 25 keys only? Because you said they only get to get 25 items, or how does that work?
So they'll be collecting keys, and I think they'll have to upgrade it at one point if they want to use the keys, but there will be rooms that they can access for free without having to use keys particularly. Or essentially, it's the same way. I can't remember exactly if it's going to be like a premium locked room versus a normally locked room. But essentially, 25 of the items will be unlockable for free-to-play players. And then if you're a premium one, if you're like the paid version of the tower, then you'll be able to unlock all the rooms. But you'll be able to progress through it regardless if you're paid or if you're free. You'll just have to build a path through it as you level up, and then you'll get access to things. And the part that I'm really excited for, and once we actually do explore a little bit more, which is completely unique to reward towers as far as I'm aware, is the secret kind of dungeons aspect of it that we're going to do. So like eventually there's going to be, as you're progressing the board, there's like, oh, there's a little torch on the wall. You interact with the torch. Oh, a whole new little branch that wasn't initially shown was there. So like players are eventually going to get these reward towers, and they're going to start discovering secrets, and they're going to start sharing secrets, and people are going to start like editing how they're going to go through the battle tasks or the reward tower because of like, little secrets that pop up, and trying to make it more of an advantage of itself. So
because you say the word dungeons, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, exclusive dungeons locked behind the reward? No, none of that, right? The reward tower?
No. So like think of the reward tower as its own unique little dungeon. So as you're progressing through the tower, you're going to find secrets inside of the reward tower, inside the battle pass itself, which I think would be a really cool way to experience it. And again, you have all the time in the world to go back and
That's one of the things that I
flush it
wanted
out.
to
So
give the team a lot of props, because one of the things that I hate about battle passes is that whole, you get this battle pass, you're committed to play this game at this exact timetable, and I friggin' hate that. I'm like, well, what if I don't want to play it right now? Or what if the game is telling me to do something that I don't feel like doing right now? It gets very annoying, because then you're like, oh, I have to play the game in this very specific way to do this very specific thing that the developer wants me to do, and I have to do it within this very specific time frame.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'll lose it forever. I spent money on this, and then I'm going to lose it forever. So I like the fact that it's like, no, you just buy the battle pass, do it whenever you want. If you like what's in the battle pass, get it. If you don't. It's like, I like the freedom of, I don't know, 2 years from now, oh, I'm going to go grind that first battle pass that I never got around to doing. Like, I think
yep.
that is a good thing.
No, that's 100% what we want to do. We want to respect the players' time there, and like it's good content too. Like eventually there will be players that literally like season 4 they pick up the game for whatever reason, they have a ton of time and they will blow through every piece of content that we have in that season. But now, like, oh, by the way, I have 4 other season passes that I can actually progress through while I'm waiting for the next season to come out. So like we completely expect there's going to be a huge spike of like when the new season comes out, people are going to jump in, they're going to grind the heck through it, and then there's going to be a drop off. But the fact that we're going to have all these other battle passes or all these other reward towers that they can kind of work through, that's going to kind of help sustain, people sticking around past that first couple weeks.
But I seem to remember in that live stream you said that you can't buy the battle pass after the season ends.
Yes. So you will have to, if you want to get access to it, that's like the FOMO reason. And like, there's a lot of technical reasons too, from my understanding of actually like having that many SKUs on, MTX stores and all the different platforms.
Yeah.
If we had all of them available at all times, things get really dicey.
But you will rotate them, or
yes, yeah. So there's probably going to be a chance for the previous towers like come in, bundles and things like that. We don't know what they are yet. We don't have them planned out. But yeah, there's going to be a rotation of like the previous packs and availability as far as I'm aware.
So even if you jump into the game like 2
do,
years from now, there'll still be a chance to pick up earlier reward towers at some point.
Yeah. We don't have anything that's exclusive there. Like the ones that are in the Founders season are going to be exclusive to the Founders. Like we're not going to release those again. But I 100% like there's going to be a best of towers or something like that we'll put on the store. But just technically, it's very difficult to just say, oh yeah, we're going to have an infinitely growing shopping cart of battle passes that you get. Which one, it's overwhelming. It doesn't really fit with like what we're trying to do with like the story building each season. But if you do purchase during that 3-month window at any point, like it's locked to your account, you can access it at any point in the future.
So these towers, they're also how you unlock new characters for each of the seasons, correct? I believe that they're connected somehow.
Yeah, so there are going to be nodes that have essentially one of the drops of a weapon or one of the drops of a Wayfinder inside the tower. So as you progress through it, there's going to be a room that has like a little gem of whatever character would be. So if you get to there, then you get one piece of the Wayfinder to craft. We haven't really flushed out the system 100% yet, but there is going to be an awakening system where you have to craft an
you got 2
awakening
weeks
stone
to flush that out.
Yeah, well,
got 2 weeks.
No, we got 6 months. 6 months, all the time in the world.
Like, the early access starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, and don't worry, that build's already done, so we're good.
Okay.
No, but the awakening system is going to be closer to free-to-play launch, like when we fully roll that out. But that's how you're going to essentially over-level your characters. It's essentially like the prestige system, so you're going to have like, Venomous, you get to level 30, you used an awakening stone, now it's a venomous asterisk mark, so it resets down to level 1, but like that ceiling, the total power ceiling is now increased. So in order to get really a character super leveled up, you're going to have to play the game a lot to do that. And like that's one thing that you can't pay for power in our store. You're never going to be able to pay for that experience or pay for like those levels or anything like that. In order to actually get your character to the maximum level, even if you bought a premium tower and you get access to a character immediately, in order to really power them up and get to that level 30, you're going to actually have to play the character, just like any other free-to-play character or free player would have to. So
yeah, but when I was talking about unlocking, I'm talking about unlocking like new Wayfinders.
Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be any Wayfinders that are exclusive to the reward towers or anything like that. It's just like instead of having to go and fight the bosses and get the drops for it, there's an alternative path which is going through the reward tower and getting those pieces as well. So you still need to get all of the pieces to put it together. So it's just a matter of if you're going to go through the reward tower aspect of it and collect those gems that could either work towards an awakening stone, or you're going to go fight the bosses, get the drops, do it through the normal loop. But either way, you're going to need to play the game and level up that character to level 30 to use the stone. So either way, you're still going to need to actually play the game to get that unlock.
I think either I'm confused.
What are we messed up?
It's like, so you said at the start, right? You pick one of the three Wayfinders.
Yeah.
So say I want to unlock another one. What do I have to do?
Yep. So if you were same as weapons, so
you go into dungeons and you get stuff and you just craft a new Wayfinder.
Yep.
Okay, and then the reward tower just limit breaks them, kind of.
No, there's going to be ways that you can get those awakening stones if you're a free player too. It's just like if you have excess of those resources. So each Wayfinder, there's 4 components that makes a Wayfinder. You get those either through drops from killing bosses, or there
which
will
you
be
can
nodes,
target,
those,
like the weapons.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So they'll be just exactly the same as weapons. It'll just like be pieces, like the fragmented soul of that Wayfinder, their echo, out in the world. You get those drops. You put them together through one of the main NPCs. It creates the Wayfinder. Now you just have them in your roster. You enter your menu at any point, and you can swap between the characters. Is how that works. So like you can either craft it through gameplay, which all free players are going to do, or if you have the reward tower and you get all those different nodes, then you can craft it that way as well. So it's just a different avenue for the same result.
So one of the things that bothered me particularly when it came to Warframe, since you guys have kind of like a similar system, was I remember I put a bunch of effort into crafting like a Rhino Warframe back in the day. So this really dates how long ago it was that I played Warframe, right? I was like all excited about crafting a Rhino. So I crafted my Rhino Warframe and I leveled him up to max, and then it's like, it felt to me like the game expected me, now you play another Warframe. I was like, well, I don't want to. I just want to play my Rhino. And it almost felt like I was getting penalized because then you don't get the mastery rank or whatever because you're not leveling up a frame. So is it your intention to do something similar to that? Or let's say, I just want to play Windgrave and I just want to keep progressing all of the systems in the game by just playing Windgrave and nothing else. Like, what is the deal with that?
So short answer, I think we are going to incentivize playing multiple Wayfinders. Like, again, the collection aspect of it, you do want to get through all the way. Like, not to say that you can't come back. I think it's more tied to, no, because you're still going to have like the class archetypes, and like there's going to be a mastery system where if you do level a class archetype compared to another class archetype, there's going to be just like an account-wide bonus that you're going to apply to your character before we even get into like the other systems that are coming down the pipes. So we are incentivizing players to play a variety of Wayfinders that come out there. That said, you could 100% like get the full enjoyment out of the game and do all the content just dedicating yourself to a single Wayfinder and never touching anybody else. Like, sure, maybe that theoretical maximum isn't as high as if you maxed out everything, but absolutely is possible. And if you were to focus on one Wayfinder and just do nothing but that one, the amount of progression that you can get just from leveling up your echoes, from leveling up the weapons, and then maybe you're just swapping out the weapons and leveling those up and powering those up, like that will keep you busy for many, many hundreds of hours probably. So like you're still doing that, and like all those echoes are technically like you just say, you know what, I am going to try this new one that came out for this season. You pop that in there, all that progression that were making on that one not Warframe, that one Wayfinder you can swap it in and like basically overcharge like that new Wayfinder you're doing. So like they're all like independent branches of progression that you're able to be putting time into. So even if you like max out the theoretical max level, you've awakened them, you've leveled them up again, that'll take you a lot of time. But once you get all there, then you have all these other branches, like whether it's the housing system and you're getting all these new trophies and like those are affecting your gameplay and your character, or you're trying to get a new mount, or you're trying to get a new, cosmetic skin from fighting a certain challenge, or you're trying to get all this other stuff. Like there's going to be enough to keep players busy, even if they only just want to play one Wayfinder. Like it hits all the right spots. They're perfectly happy. Like there are going to be lots of other things that keep them busy on that one character. But theoretical maximum power level, you'd want to be doing a variety of Wayfinders.
Yeah, you'll want to do different ones. But
Yeah.
you've touched upon something that I wasn't too familiar with, which is the thing that you said you can kind of like get the with the asterisk after you level them up, and then you
Yep.
unlock something with the awakening stone. Yeah, that was it, the awakening
Yep.
thing. So what's the
Yep.
awakening mechanic?
So that is essentially once you hit that maximum level. So once you hit the maximum
Maximum level
and
is 30, I believe you said.
yeah, right now for early access it's 30. That may change in the future.
Yeah.
But you get to level 30, like you're not getting experience anymore. That's when you're going to want to have the awakening stone to awaken them. Once they're awakened, then that's their quote unquote asterisk. They're not actually going to get an asterisk mark. But that's going to be like the awakened version of the Wayfinder, which is essentially it's the prestige +1 or whatever it's going to be. And then now they're going to have slightly higher stats than they would, compared to the same level normal or base Wayfinder. So as you get those awakening stones, like then their power level, their maximum power level is increasing. So just like increases the total ceiling of just progression you can do with the certain Wayfinders, but that will reset you back down to 0. And in order to make that, you have to create the awakening stone, which is by collecting all the pieces of the Wayfinder, like if you're going to craft them.
So, like we talked about at the start, it's like one of the big things about these types of games is going to be customization. In your game, these are going to be specific characters, like they're even named characters like Wingrave, Kairos, Silo, whatever. And what can people customize about them? Like we saw a couple of different things in the in the stream that you guys did. Like how do people have access to those things? Are they just cosmetics that you buy? Do free to play players have access to them as well?
So I think there's like two kind of ways you can look at customization. There's like the gameplay customization, and then there's the cosmetic customization.
Yeah, right now I'm going specifically into cosmetic because we already talked
Cosmetic,
about like
yep.
loot and crafting and all of these
Cool.
things. Those are gameplay, right?
Yeah, and there's probably a couple other ones we haven't super diving into, but whatever. We get the idea. For cosmetics, it's going to be so anything that is gameplay affecting is going to be earnable for free in characters. There are going to be exclusive cosmetics that are in the paid shop exclusively. And there are going to be ones that are exclusive to gameplay. So there's going to be both. So there's going to be ones that we want players to like, oh my God, did you see that guy's shoulder pads or whatever it was? How did he get those? Oh, you have to do this insane, dungeon with these imbuements on it with this mutator system. And then you have a chance of getting that drop. So there's going to be cosmetics that are free exclusive. There's going to be cosmetics that are paid exclusive. And then each Wayfinder has a level, which I'm really excited. Like the die system is super freaking cool. So each piece of armor, so there's item sets and there's personas, two separate things. If it's an item set, you can literally mix and match all the different ones that you've collected. So you can have the chest piece of one item set with the shoulder pads of another item set with the helm and the legs of a separate one. Literally mix and match however you want. And then inside of each of those pieces that you're collecting, there are 4 different categories of dies that you can adjust to it. And then there's hundreds of dies that you're going to be able to unlock as well. So the dies, you can die individual components of there. So not only are each, shoulder pads or whatever, either a set piece or whatever, you can actually die like the stripes inside of like the spike that are coming out, that's completely mapped to a certain die that you're putting on it, or the spike is a different color, or the emissives, so like the glows that are coming out of it, you can customize those as well. So literally you can have two Windgraves with the exact same armor sets on, but they could have completely different look just by how you're dyeing that. So we're not going to be releasing skins that just like, hey, by the way, it's this skin, but now it's pink or it's blue or purple, but you have to buy a whole new thing. Like we're leaving that up to the player expression, like how they want to really customize. Like a player really loves black and orange. They can make a black and orange all of their armor sets, whatever they unlock. But the same person could make it, blue and teal or whatever they want to do.
You can unlock at least some dyes through gameplay as well, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So it's going to be the same system for both the physical 3D rendered pieces that you're going to be unlocking, as well as the dyes are going to be a combination of both
basically
in-game
basically the thing is for people that just want to play free, they'll get some stuff, and people that want to pay for additional cosmetic stuff, they can pay for that. I think that's fair. I think when it comes to cosmetics, I think it's fair so long as not everything is in the store, right? It's important to also let free to play players get some stuff, in my opinion, because otherwise, if everything's in the store, then it's like, well, yeah, free to players are just everybody's default. That's it. And it makes it kind of boring. But yeah, I
agree. No, I completely agree. And you do want to, especially like mounts and like that's what makes like the gameplay chase super exciting. Is like World of Warcraft mounts, like that is ultimate like in end game, right? It's just like you want to go do this one raid and have a chance of dropping this really cool mount that you can show off to other players. Like we want that aspect of things too. Like we want some really cool things that players will collect a whole collection of like, oh, I did all these different bosses and I got all these really cool unique skill things that inspire other players. Like, how do you go do that? They look up how to do it. They talk with other players that figure out how to go get that chase item, and they get to express themselves through cosmetics, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, cosmetics is a huge part of endgame, right? You're trying to show off to other players and show off how badass you are. So
and while we're on the topic of cosmetics, so you guys have a housing system as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be something that free-to-play players are going to be able to participate significantly in, or is it going to be more something like for paid players? So, like for instance, in a game like I believe ESO, there's like all this housing system, but it's mostly for people that want to actually put some money on it. Whereas if you're playing free, the housing system is just like it's kind of harder to get around.
So it's again, it's always a tricky balance to say and then actually make a reality. So hopefully we find a good balance. And again, that's a big part of just the open communication between development and the community. It's like we'll be listening. But yeah, no, ideally it is going to be a really important system and a progression system for free players in addition to paid players. So especially once we get the neighborhood elements of it, and there's going to be like objects that you can place that will be like a collective quest that everybody in your neighborhood is working towards to get a special bonus, or also just like you're putting in an artifact in a friend's artifact slot that gives them a special bonus, and kind of like trading group bonuses based off of like that social aspect of things. But anything that is, so there's artifacts and trophies, those have tangible in-game effects. So like you can go in there, let's say you get the trickster chest, for instance. Like a trickster chest is like an event that is kind of a chaos jester, so to speak, that pops up randomly through your adventures, and he will drop chests, and you use a key, and you have a chance of actually unlocking the treasure that's inside of it. So like you'll have a chance of getting the trickster chest that you can put into your house, and if you have a key, you get to unlock it, and you automatically get that reward once a day. So it's like a 24-hour cooldown on that. Those types of items, all players will have access to. So if it affects gameplay, all players will be able to get that, put that into their house, and that will have tangible benefits to their character. If it's just purely a cosmetic thing, it's like, I really like this fern or something, like that could be exclusive to a paid shop. So there will be like decorative items that are exclusive to the paid options, but anything that is gameplay affecting and honestly like an important part of like giving your character an overall bonus. So like the one I gave was an example of a trophy, but artifacts are going to be ones that are like player-based passive bonuses. So like you kill a boss, you get a chance of dropping this item that you can put in your house that's interactable and has cool VFX and stuff like that. That will give you'll literally, the bigger your house, the more capacity that you can put these artifacts in, and that will give you like, you know, the one for the Grand Deceiver I think I showed up on stream gives you 10% more gold drop on your runs. So like that's a tangible benefit that you get to your gameplay and your character. Like all players will have access to that as well. So like it'll be more like unique drops that you can get from the world that you can actually power up your character. And if you're a free player, you have access to that as well. But yes, eventually we're going to have neighborhoods, which it's literally just like plots of land that you buy, and you have a bunch of social systems, and people can interact and go into each other's housings, interact with like the things that you put in those housing to get benefits. So like you do that aspect, and then there'll be guild housing. The guilds will have, you know, very specific items that they can put in their guild neighborhoods to work together and get like special bonuses, kind of like the Onyxia head or whatever. So if you get like that in your neighborhood, your guild neighborhood, you'll have like a overall benefit. So we want that to be like a whole other just branch of progression that you can
Jesus. Like that's way more complex than I was expecting. I was like, oh, neighborhoods, they'll just let people put houses together. It's like, no. So you need to buy.
Steve is excited, and Elise they're doing some cool stuff. We have like literally, that's like an entire department is working on housing for the game. So the early, is it going to be like in the early access that we're getting on the 15th of August? The housing, I mean, just a basic version of housing. Basic version, yeah. So the early access version is literally you're going to get like your room at the inn in housing, and that's the one that you saw the showcase. It's a very small space, has very low like artifact. You'll be able to swap in and out like the artifacts that you have in there, but I think you get like a maximum of 10 capacity, and most of the artifacts like use 5. So you basically can put 2 artifacts in at a point. You get 2 passive bonuses, and then you get, you know, that footprint to, you know, put items into. Eventually there will be, you know, even before we get to the neighborhoods, there's going to be bigger housing that you can get,
which is going to cost
to.
The currency is going to be gold for that, I'm hoping, right? In-game gold or something. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if I haven't heard of any plans. I'm sure there will be. Again, free-to-play model, we're going to need to have ways of getting monetization. So like I'm sure there will be a faster way to get the next housing through the paid shop. But again, it will have gameplay implements, so it will be free and fair. Free players will have the same opportunity to get the same things. It just will take gameplay versus their wallets. So yeah.
And then eventually you want to do neighborhoods. You said buy a plot of land. I'm assuming that because that stuff is not really set in stone, you guys are still figuring that stuff out.
Yeah, there's a lot of tech that goes into it. So I mean, we have a lot of things that we wanted to do, right? And that's always the risk. It's just like, okay, they're saying they're going to do all this cool stuff. Are they going to do it? So I mean, it's on the docket. It's in the production schedule. We're working towards it, but we have to prioritize what we're working on and when we're doing it. So, I mean, we've been fleshing out the gameplay. I've been working on that a lot. There's going to be balance changes because you can't really figure out a balance until you get hundreds of thousands of players playing it for, you know, thousands of hours. So, like, that is going to be a big part of early access, is just finding out, okay, what weapons are broken, what wayfinders are broken, what abilities are broken, like what do we have to do to kind of make it a fair and fun, exciting game for whoever you want to play, and making those choices meaningful. And that comes along with the features that we add to the game. So any feature you add to the game takes development time. It takes resources. It takes, you know, whatever it might be. So like there's certain things that we feel are more important. Like we really want to expand the scope of the actual footprint of the game as quickly as possible. So like making those new open world areas, making those mount systems available, making the new characters, the new wayfinders, the new weapons, like all of those are just going to be really big meat and potatoes. And like the smaller new systems that we're adding on, like, yes, they're important to us, but it's just like, what is more important?
I'm asking about housing mostly for the people that care, because like I don't care about housing at all.
We're hopefully going to make you care about housing. Like if we're doing our job right, you're going to care about it. So we'll see.
For instance, that's something that you'll hear a lot of people going on in 14, because it's limited space in terms of housing, and it's a big deal for everybody to have. At one point, I had a free company, and a good friend of mine went in and bought us like a plot so that we could have a house, and I was like, I don't care about any of this. I really don't. They spent like a bunch of time decorating, and I was like, this is great. It's a cool place for us to hang out with. I still don't care. We could just as easily be hanging out in the middle of town. It doesn't make any difference. I
resonate with you a little bit more. But what excites me is like thinking of the social interaction that you get, and like the gameplay elements of like interacting in that social aspect of it, and then also just like collecting the artifacts and like showing off people get into your house and like, how the hell did you get that artifact? And like that aspect of it kind of excites me.
And the thing about it is also, even though for me it's not like a super exciting feature, I do like, there's no way that anybody can not recognize how important it is, because I do think that it is a crux feature, like a really core important for the community aspect. Like, you're talking about people are doing friggin' nightclubs in 14. They're straight up having nightclub parties and like all these crazy things. At one point I went into a place where they were doing like this tea house role play. And it's just like, what is going, it's really cool. It's really cool.
People experience, that's the beauty of social games like this. So it's just like, you'll never think of like how people are actually going to interact with the medium. Like, we just want to give them the tools, basically. The tools to do whatever the heck they want to do. And like that'll be awesome.
So one of the things that I even brought up during your stream is like, I think one of the most important things about even early access housing is other players need to be able to go to your house. Is that something that's going to be on from the beginning? Okay. Yeah. That's very important.
Yes, and I think that'll be on like from the beginning as well. Don't quote me on that. It might take a couple weeks, but like that's pretty close. We've already been able to do that like in our test build.
Because I think that the big thing is like, oh, I found this cool item. I need to show my friend. I got to brag about this really cool item that I found. And then there's going to be people that also will want to do like role play stuff and whatnot. How many people can be inside a house instance?
I think it's still like the party limit of 3. Again, that whole social aspect will expand as we get into like neighborhoods, and that will just be like, you'll be able to go there if they're in your friends list and that sort of thing. Like right now, it'll be like, okay, you're in a party together. We go to the door. We can choose whose house we go into.
See,
sort of deal.
If there's one feedback that I can give you guys in regards to that, you need to up that number to like 10. Like because here's the thing: if you're trying to set up like this type of social engagement with the housing system or whatnot, even more important than having like all of these housings and neighborhoods, you just need to have more people in the same place. You need to be able to have more people in the same place. Because again, it's not a feature that I use, but I think that will probably be one of the important things.
I will tell Steve as soon as I get in the office today, like, how many people were you allowed in the housing? Up that number. Those are rookie numbers.
Give the people more. So one of the things that I'm also...
Which shouldn't be that hard, like tech-wise. Like,
I can imagine it's a small instance, so it can't be too hard, I would imagine.
Yeah, it'll be, especially that first apartment, it's going to get hot and sweaty real quick.
Yeah, exactly. People are going to be doing some nightclubs and everybody's just like clipping through each other.
This is such a cool room. Oh my god, I can sort of see it over that guy's shoulder.
Is there actually is there a player collision? I didn't even ask this.
There is like minor collision, so you can like, you're not going to get blocked by a player. You can move,
but you're also not going to be clipping all over.
Yeah, but if you do get a friend that is AFK for too long in town, you can sort of like push into him and like their character. Yeah. You can
this is good.
Yes.
That's important.
There's going to be a lot of that happening. You get a group of people just like doing AFK police in town and just like pushing people off cliffs. I'm sure will happen.
Yes. This is an important system. So do you think that with the engine that you guys got going right now for the game that you're going to be able to quickly do changes? Because one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of live service games is that some teams have a tendency to underestimate the importance of having an engine that is malleable. Like I feel like a good recent example of that would be Anthem. Like I know a lot of people they like to crap on Anthem. Personally, I really like the gameplay, but the game engine that they were using was very unwieldy. Like they specifically said at one point, in order to like move a rock from one place to another, they'd need to do like a 100 gigabyte download on the client side. And I was like, okay, there's a problem there. Right. So it's like, is the team working with the engine already to be able to be like, okay, if we need to do a quick change, this will be super easy, not a problem? It's maybe a very specific question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm sure a programmer is going to like listen to this and like, Alex, what the do you just say? This is a lot of work, but it's on Unreal, so we're using Unreal 4. We do have plans on migrating to Unreal 5, and I think that'll help. So people are super excited for just like Lumen and some of the other tools that you get in there, and same with optimization. I think on Unreal 5 opens a lot as far as like optimization goes. So don't have an exact timeline
Yeah.
on that transition and what's going to take with it. But as far as Unreal 4 goes, like, and how the development process works is essentially like we want to be essentially working 2 seasons in the future. So we're going to have the game that's released. We already have the next season, like, pretty much baked ready in the pipeline that we're just like, we have QA testing and finding like little bugs and things like that, fixing that. And now we're already working, the season 2 seasons ahead of that we're building in and baking stuff into. So like, it's going to be basically just like, okay, season's finished, pop the one that's already ready. We're going to start working on the one that's 2 seasons down the way, put the other one into the pipeline and working on them. And we have like dedicated teams like leapfrogging on all the kind of core systems of it. But, right now, like, even at the early access is going to be like the bumpiest rock road for that. Like we're already working on that stuff. So like, it's going to be, hopefully as the team continues to hopefully grow and expand and we get more resources to work on that stuff, we'll be able to do it. But it's all within, Unreal Engine, putting blueprints. Each of the different teams has basically very, specific goals. Like, okay, on level design, this is like the events team. They're building their own little cool little event that we can literally just copy that blueprint, put it into, the level and the tiles that are being made and put all the effects of that. And it's basically just kind of a copy paste. Once like the systems are built, you can just pop it in and say like, okay, when does this trigger? When does it happen? What are the rewards? And tie all those pieces together. So yeah, I mean, can't say I'm not the engineer. I can't say. I don't want to get yelled at when I go into the office. But
we'll have to see. And
we're building in a way that is scalable. Like that's the idea.
And also, I think it's important for everybody listening to always like take some of this stuff with a grain of salt because things are in flux. The game isn't even out yet. So it's like, let's try not to hold the team here to be like, no, you said this thing, because that's how you kind of assure that teams are not comfortable speaking to anyone because like, oh no, you said this one thing that one time in that podcast, and it's like, yeah, things change. But
reality is reality, unfortunately. Yeah. But again, we're pretty happy with what we're doing. Like, yes, we've had a couple delays, but like honestly, in the grand scheme of things, especially what's been happening in the last few years,
I wasn't even aware you guys had delays.
Yeah, I mean, when we announced back in
December.
God, is November, December, something like that.
It's December because that's the Game Awards. Yeah.
Yeah, December. I think I started in November, so I came on like a month before we announced. But yeah, so back in December, we said it was going to be the late 2023, and now we're looking early, like first couple months of 2024. I think February's probably, again, internet.
Yeah,
hold me to it. But that's what we're looking at right now is February of 2024. So I mean, 2 months delay after going through all this testing. We've added, I don't know how many systems that we've actually added that weren't on the docket purely because of the feedback we got during those testing periods. So like air dashing fundamentally changed the game.
Yeah, I heard that was like a bug initially.
Oh, there's another one too, which I'm praying we get to keep. People love it, but it does, again, it stretches.
It breaks the game.
It breaks a lot of stuff. You can access areas that you're not supposed to. You can just like bypass traps and all sorts of stuff. But it's so much fun. But anyway, yeah, so air dashing is basically like our compromise of that. So when you jump, you can dash in the air versus like you just do your double jumps, which double jump by itself makes level design a nightmare. But
I can
when
imagine.
you have a double jump with a dash, you can get to all sorts of places that you're not supposed to, which I love to do. That's like my probably
like
role within the company in QA is
a mini game in and of itself. I feel like a lot of times teams do have a tendency to underestimate how important traversal is and how it just feels good for players if they're able to do things that are just like crazy, like, oh, I can go over here and do this thing and I can explore this area and do all these crazy things just through traversal, as opposed to just, oh no, you can walk, you can run, you can jump every now and then. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of basic.
I know I'm gonna get yelled at by Ron when I mention this, but one like perfect example of that, we were doing a server stress test during the closed beta, and there was an exploit that I had found like in town where if you jump on this cog, like this turning wheel, and then you get a perfect time, because like if you did it too soon, like you'd bounce off and it would reject you. But if you timed it just right, you could jump and then you could dash to like this nether little ledge, just like a toe off, and you could get on top of another one, and then you could literally go out, like the
Out
world
of
boxes
bounds?
are huge. Oh, way out of bounds.
No.
And like you go on this freaking journey, and it was this pilgrimage, we called it. So I gathered a bunch of players that are like in the closed beta test as well. We all jumped on this cog. We all like eventually, it took like 30 minutes for everybody to get up on top of it. And we were all just like making jokes, doing emotes, like eating popcorn. Like as they're all like failing and getting to this jump, they eventually got in. We had like a group of like 10 or 15 of us. We all like, I'll get to it later. But anyway, we all like traversed outside of the map. Like, you could barely see like the town in like the far distance. And I'm talking like Halo 2 map exploit days of like you're doing like the Banshee rocket jumps and your beam sword jumps and whatnot, which I loved. Anyway, so we go all the way up here. They're like these huge mountains way in the distance, and then like you get on top of the mountains, and like you had to time this double jump perfectly so you could do these huge gaps.
Or you'd fall through the
like
world.
the leap of faith. There was definitely areas you could fall through the world, and I don't know why we have collision as far out as we do, but we did, and it was amazing. And we go all the way to like the peak of this mountain where you could just see the entire town, like the entire skybox, and like all the fake mountains like way back in the distance as well. And we just did like literally 45 minutes of just like a long jump competition utilizing that glitch I was talking about.
Oh, God.
Where you just like, you're on top of the mountain, no gameplay at all. We're all just like doing the server stress test out in the middle of the freaking God knows where everything looks horrible because like low poly, like long distance stuff. You're not supposed to be out there, but we're just doing like this long jump competition and like see who could actually like tweak the exploit just long enough to get the, that extra inch. And we were all just doing that like in Discord, laughing and having a great time. But yeah, no, it's a huge component of the game is just like build the world, give players tools to do with it. Like, because you put that on paper, it's like, oh, we're going to have this great game where people can wander off into the middle of nowhere and jump. Like, that sounds fun, right? But actually, it was so fun. Like, we literally, so if you ever see cog, like the little cog symbol, like showing up in chat or like in the Discord, people saying cog or coggers and stuff like that, it was because like we literally just developed a cog. So this is incognito. You have to find a member in a church and maybe they'll take you on a pilgrimage of what I just described. And you go to the top of this mountain, which we named Cog Mountain. And there you have to go through the forest of obscurity because like the low pixel, you can't see shit through it. And you have to like hope you don't fall through the map. And you have to do the leap of faith. You get to the top of Cog Mountain. You get to see everything. You finally become indoctrinated into the member of Incognito. And it is all because of that stupid cog that people were trying to jump on in the beginning of it. But no, it made an entire cult. And like literally production talked to me the next day like, what the hell did you do?
What were you doing?
Like everybody was like yelling cog and like, what is cog? Like, oh, sorry, made a cult accidentally last night. It was great. It was great.
See, I don't want to be your boss. This is not... but it is fun. Like players have a tendency to like want to go to places that they're not allowed to. I feel like one of the games that in my opinion had some of the best exploration I've ever done is like this game called Xenoblade Chronicles X, because what the developers did is to make the traversal really fun. They just let your characters jump freakishly high. So you'll be able to just go up, bounce. Like it's properly animated. It's not like funky or anything, but like you'll be able to just jump really high. So then I'd be going into areas where I'd be like, I don't know, level 20, and the monsters in there would be like level 80. So I'd be fully just darting around aggro ranges, and then, oh, there's a mushroom over there, and then jump on this mushroom, jump on this other.
Yep.
Just go completely to places that you're not supposed to be in. And I think that that's a good fantasy to have. Not necessarily like exploit stuff and go out of bounds or whatever, just be able to go to places you're not supposed to be in, and developers kind of like thinking about that, I think is cool.
Yeah, no, and I'm a huge proponent of that, where we do like our art team, rightfully so, is very particular. So if like we're showing stuff that just isn't presented like the beautiful way that they've renditioned in their mind, they're like, nope, we gotta go, which I get. We definitely don't want to break that immersion factor of like, okay, this is a whole world, and like, okay, that's obviously just nobody thought you'd see something from that angle, like just invisible walls and whatnot. So like there is that balance to strike, but like I'm all for, and I'm going to continue to push, like I find all the stupid, crazy platforming puzzles that essentially you make out of it. And like, it'd be super cool if like you go there and there's just like an Easter egg, like
and
scroll or little thing.
And I think
that
that type of stuff, that type of stuff like jumping puzzles and whatnot is something that you guys can kind of lean in if you have like double jump and air
Hmm.
dash and all of that. Like there's a lot of games that do these types of jumping puzzles. Like in 14, you got the Kugane Tower, and in Guild Wars, you have like God knows how many different jumping puzzles. So that's definitely something that the community kind of like leans in on. So it's cool. But earlier,
Yep.
you were talking about like we were talking about systems that affect gameplay. We talked about the crafting. We talked about all this stuff, and then we talked about cosmetics. And you said, but there's more. So I want to pull back on that thread. What do you mean there's more?
Okay, what didn't we cover? So definitely progression systems. You
Yeah.
have your main character, the leveling up your character, getting skill points, putting those into your certain abilities, and leveling those. That's one progression tower. Getting your weapon, leveling your weapon up, and getting the maximum like slots that you can get. And that's another progression. Your housing, leveling up your housing, getting all the little uh, gameplay effects, the trophies, your artifacts. That's another progression tower. You're gonna have the two systems. So we're gonna have the mastery system, which was what you're talking about, which you don't like necessarily having to play multiple different types of
Yeah.
archetypes. So you have your war master, you have your architect, you have your survivalist. Those are like your three opening archetypes, like character archetypes that will have character-wide bonuses that you have different abilities that unlock depending on how leveled up you've had that type of archetype. So Wingrave is a War Master, Senja is also a War Master. So if you're playing either of those characters, you'll get another progression bar that will unlock different abilities that you can turn on, which will be passive across all of your characters. Same for Archivist and Survivalist, and there might be more in the
Oh,
future.
so even
Um,
even like playing the, let's say I'm playing Wingrave and then I'll play Silo, which I'm assuming is different type of.
yep. So he's
I'll
a
I'll
Survivalist.
get passive benefits from Silo that will benefit Wingrave.
If you leveled the other one up. Yeah. So that's why it's
Okay.
like when you were saying like if I just want to solo focus on one, you're technically missing out on some potential. It might not be what you want to do anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But there could be, more
There
customization
could be synergies
options
there.
if you
Yeah.
leveled up. Exactly. And you can always swap those ones. You can just like freely swap out at any time. So like, oh, you know what would give me the edge for this party composition? Let me swatch this passive, and you'd be able to do that. But we are working into the
Do those
there's
passives?
two other systems we're doing. So
Do those
yeah.
passives will also like say for instance, I have my Wingrave and that's the one that I unlock and awaken and all of these things. If you awaken one of the other ones like Silo, do you still get new passives after the awakening, or do you unlock all of the passives up to level 30?
So that would have been that system will be independent. So that will be basically because it could be multiple wayfinders that fall within that archetype. So if it's a survivalist, which I think Venomous is also a survivalist.
Yeah.
So if you level either of those characters up, you could get one to level 1 and one to level 30. Like if you level that mastery system all the way up, that will be permanently unlocked for all your characters. It won't get reset.
But you don't
with,
but you don't need to awaken
awakening.
it to get the full benefit of that? Okay.
No, yeah, so that'll be like a separate system. Who knows? We might add like another layer of depth to that down the line. But initially, that's going to be a separate system that lives on its own. And then when you level up your or awaken your Wayfinder, that'll be that progression system that
Okay.
you're kind of resetting and increasing the ceiling for. But then we're also opening up the armory system, which we're not ready to talk about, as well as one other system, which is going to be closer to like actual replacing skills and slotting in new skills for characters that will be kind of account bound. So that's going to be a whole new system that we're not ready to talk about yet, but that will be people's concerns about only having 4 abilities per character. Hopefully will get addressed with that system as well.
Oh.
So
And those 4 skills, you don't choose them. These are just like, no, this character has these 4 skills. It's not this character has 7 skills and you pick 4.
So that's actually another place that we changed based off of community feedback. So initially it was you have your 4 skills, three skills that you unlock, and then one that's more like the ultimate. And then you also have a passive for each character, and then you have the weapon ability. But for those 4 skills, there's 3 pips that you can unlock, and they'll make it more powerful and kind of change up how you use those skills. And you get points, and you won't get enough points to max all of them out, so you do have to choose which
Make
and
a
where
build.
you want to put them. Yep. So you can have, again, 2 Wingraves that have very different skills based off of where you associate those points. But
it's the same 4 skills. It's just like I'll have like the shield of righteous that's more powerful than the other one who's got the bulwark of judgment or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Like one with Kairos is interesting. Like if you max out the pips for his Rake ability, it will actually give you lifesteal. Versus like if you associate those
Also,
points somewhere else, like you're
it changes the
increasing your ability
ability.
power.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So like there are differences like fundamentally to how the abilities will work in a team dynamic,
Okay, that's
depending
cool.
on where you associate those points, which is cool. But initially, it was just like, okay, you're level 1, you're going to get access to this ability. You at level 5, you get access to this ability. You get level 10, you get access to this ability. That was a little bit restrictive from community feedback that we got from like the closed beta test. So now players have the ability to choose. Like once you level up, you hit a certain threshold, you get to choose what ability that you get
And
next versus like it being a linear path.
can you change that whenever you want, or is that like going to involve some kind of gold cost or something to respec?
So the respec system for the skill points will be once you it will be probably like a gold just to kind of reduce inflation. Gold inflation is not going to be a paid currency like real money. It'll just be in-game currency. The 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 skills that you unlock once you hit those thresholds, they'll be permanently unlocked. So like let's say you hit level 30, you have all of your abilities. Like if you did a reset, you have all your abilities still. You just have to reassociate the 7 points that you want to put them into, whatever it would be. So
Okay.
but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other progression systems that would be in the game. I think that's at least what we have on the table now.
That's
But
already a lot.
yeah,
There's already a lot of hours of
yeah,
gameplay.
yeah.
Which one is your favorite Wayfinder right now?
Nis, Nis, my girl Nis, Team Nis, 100%.
What?
But I'm very much so. Nis is the shadow dancer. So she is in the anime. So there was Venomous that we were
Oh,
introducing.
the other
Who's
one.
the
Okay.
spy there, the one with the Eldrin braids and actually blows up the mysterious object. I'll say for now, and nukes the entire town. That's Nis. She's awesome. So she's very much like I love Dark Souls. I'm a glutton for punishment. So she is very much more like okay, utilize your stamina, utilize the perfect timing for parrying and get the bonuses for that. Dodging perfectly, getting the bonuses for that. Just really high mobility, low health glass cannon is kind of like the play style that suits her. But again, you could completely make her like a tank support character if you wanted to, slot out her echoes and her weapons and her abilities in a certain way. Like that's totally an option as well. But I'm very much a glass cannon DPS. Like I'll die in one hit, but boy, if I stay alive, I'm gonna do a bunch of damage. Yeah, so I love Ness, and her styles and her cosmetics are super freaking cool too. So Team Nis for now. We'll see, but we have a lot of other characters coming down the pipes that I'm excited for. I think we have like at least 9, 13, somewhere like that. We've got a lot planned out, so I'm excited to show them.
Careful when you say a number.
I know,
you gotta be
right?
careful with that. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it there. We've been talking about Wayfinder for about 2 hours. Is there any final thing that you'd like to say about the game? Anything that I forgot to cover or was not knowledgeable enough to cover?
I mean, everybody, Ironbreakers, like, follow, subscribe for more content from your favorite YouTube creator. Obviously, come on, shill. But no, it's. I just want to say thank you. It's so cool to see how much clout is being generated from this game. We're really hopeful that it is living up to everybody's expectations. But again, set that expectation. This is early access.
Yeah.
It's going to be early access. We did the betas as betas, not as just like a marketing beta to get early access or whatever it was. Like we want this game to be built with the community. Like I hope you realize how invested I am in just like wanting new content creators, big content creators, just people in the community. Like I live in the Discord 24/7. Just like feel free to hit me up and hit a message. My Discord is continually, the red number is growing exponentially, but I do try to get back to everybody as best I can. And we're listening. The feature upvote is probably a huge part we didn't talk about, where once the game is live, everybody's going to get access to basically a forum account where people can put in their feedback like, hey, this system sucks, or this system would be really awesome, or whatever it is. And you'll be able to have a chance as a player to go into that and like, yes, I agree, we need this in the game. And you just click an updoot And as those filter up in the back end, like that's how we're going to prioritize making new features in the game. So like we say we're going to be working along the side of the community, but we're actually investing in that as well. So like I got hired before we even had a community. So I mean, if that's really doesn't put proof in the pudding, like we're putting money into a position like a community manager before we're even an NDA, closed beta. So like we want to be listening, we want to be adjusting the game. Like it's going to be super exciting for that. But like there's a lot on the horizon that we're hoping to get to, and go wishlist. I think we're top. I want to break into top 20 before we launch. Come on, we're close. We're so close.
Get on Steam.
And,
get on Steam and wishlist Wayfinder, guys. I'm very excited to check it out because I didn't get to play any of the betas so far. So I'll be jumping in completely blind and checking it out. But I'm excited to check it out. I'm looking forward to trying something new out. Particularly, like I said, one of the most exciting things for me is the fact that your battle passes don't expire, which is the biggest complaint that I have about battle passes everywhere. So we'll see if it's fun. And if it's fun, I'm probably gonna stick with it and play it for a good long while. So yeah, hopefully it'll be fun.
Fingers crossed. Proof will be in the pudding. I can spout words as much as I can, but I know the internet is cynical, and it's gonna come out to what it is.
Is gonna be what matters. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and also, I mean, that's a good point to mention. It is like, don't feel pressure to like, okay, I want to believe in this game. I have to buy the most expensive pack. Like you have the full 6 months to upgrade to whatever tier you want. So like if you just want to really just put your toe in the water, throw down $20, get the base level access.
Here's an important thing.
At any point.
Here's an important thing that I noticed today when I was in your website. You guys aren't doing the traditional thing where all the companies, for some strange reason, they seem to have this very strange belief that $20 is the same as 20 euros, which it's not.
Nope.
I went to the website today and I was fully expecting to just see like, that's going to be 20 euro. It's like, oh no, it's 17 euro. What? So you guys actually take into account regional pricing? I was surprised. I did not expect that. Yeah. So good on you.
Yeah, no, I think that comes from some of the expertise from DE. I think they've thought about these things and they've flushed out a lot of those like back end and account and like transaction systems. But no, there is regional pricing, and again, you can, like if you level up your battle pass because like you play the game at base level, you think it's really cool, you want to stick around for the long term, like then you can upgrade literally up until the day before we go free to play early next year. So we want it to be fair. We want people we want to earn your business and your enjoyment of the game based off of what you see.
There's a whole 6 months worth of playing before you decide whether or not you want to spend a significant chunk of money to support the game. So I think that's cool. But that's going to be it for this episode of the Cast. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe bell, notification icon, all that jazz. Do remember, wishlist Wayfinder on Steam if you are interested. And thank you once again for making the time, Sir Snarf. And we'll see you guys again in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.